Alright, welcome back guys. Today we're going to talk about if the Upside Down from the show Stranger Things is a real place or possibly a real place. And I decided to make this video because the new season of Stranger Things is out. Let me know what you guys think of the new season, but I believe that Stranger Things actually has a little bit of truth to the show. So anyway, we're going to talk about the possibility of the existence of the Upside Down. And before I get started, I'm going to explain to you what the Upside Down is. The Upside Down is an alternate dimension in Stranger Things existing in parallel to the human world. Most, if not all, flora and fauna present in the dimension are linked together in a hive mind controlled by the Mind Flayer, essentially forming an enormous superorganism. A key component of this hive mind was a species of humanoid predators dubbed Demogorgons, which originated from the dimension. On November 6, 1983, during an experiment hosted at Hawkins National Laboratory, a child test subject named 11 made interdimensional contact with the Demogorgon and unintentionally, on accident, opened the gate. Through this gateway, the Mind Flayer began using its dominion over the Upside Down to invade the town of Hawkins, spreading toxic biological matter, presumably with the goal to eventually invade the entire Earth. However, the plan was stopped when the gate was closed, supposedly severing the dimension's connection to Earth's dimension. So yeah, basically what the Upside Down is, it's another dimension. It's a world that's parallel to ours, and it's not to be confused with a parallel universe like from Doctor Strange, but just a world that's parallel to ours. And I believe that the Upside Down is actually a real place, and there's a little bit of truth to the show Stranger Things. Now, for those of you who've been with me for a while, I've done a lot of videos on different dimensions, different worlds, entities, demons, just in general the existence of an invisible world. And I believe that a world like the Upside Down actually exists and that it's parallel to our world. Throughout my videos, I talked about a lot of entities such as the Top Hat Shadow Man. I've talked about TV static entities. I talked about the Jester and Clown entities that people see on DMT and that some schizophrenics see. The past year, God has opened up a lot of doors for me when I started diving deep into these subjects of an invisible world and entities, demons. And one of the first really fascinating interviews I got to do on my channel is with a guy named Exorad Magical on TikTok. Some of you either follow this guy or have seen him on your For You pages on TikTok. He is basically a schizophrenic. He uses his artistic talents of animation, art, and drawing to show you what he experiences every day, what he sees and what he hears, the faces, the entities that he sees and hears on a daily basis.
I think are really afraid to deal with something because when you're like, oh, it's just a chemical imbalance. Here's the problem. The chemical imbalance is it has long ears and a face similar to a human, or at least the symmetry of it. And it sticks its tongue out at you and it goes, ha ha, look at you. And it's so disembodied from you, your ego, even yourself at your most smallest point of consciousness on a psychedelic trip. Doesn't matter. It's so clear to you in that moment. Observer, jester. And there's nothing you can do about it when you're seeing it.
It's like its own conscious being. Is that how you experience it? Like it's not like
Yes.
a reflection of your emotion, but what you experience is like it's its own conscious being that appears to have its own agenda. Is that what it kind of feels like? And it was really intriguing getting to talk to him and actually sitting down with an actual schizophrenic who's experienced schizophrenia for the past 6 years. And I learned a lot from his experiences about what schizophrenics see and hear. And I believe people with schizophrenia are very misunderstood. The thing that I realized about a lot of schizophrenics is they get really frustrated when they try to tell people or try to convince them that the voices and the entities that they see aren't coming from them. They believe that this is like an outside entity, or at least that's how they experience it. But a lot of people, they treat schizophrenics the way the media and movies and Hollywood kind of portrays schizophrenics as these, crazy people who can't even think straight. However, when I had my interview with Exorad Magical, that was about 2 hours long. He is a very intellectual guy. Like, I'm able to have intellectual conversations even though he's experiencing schizophrenia as we're talking. But he's used to it now because he's had it for 6 years. He's been through hell and back. So schizophrenics are not crazy. They're just simply seeing and hearing things that you and I can't. But they are smart people. They can talk. They can have intellectual conversations. The one thing that frustrates them, and I wish people would give them a chance to let them speak and just hear them out, hear out their story, what they're experiencing. They will tell you that the things they see and the things they hear aren't coming from them, but coming from somewhere else, as if the entities they are experiencing are literally outside entities that somehow got into their minds or their souls or whatever you want to call it, the consciousness. I also got the privilege of doing a podcast with a retired licensed psychotherapist of over 40 years who believes in the existence of demons. And he used to be an atheist, but throughout his experiences over the 40 years, he realized that these voices and these things these people are seeing are not just random hallucinations that the brain is making up because of some chemical imbalance that, by the way, has not been proven yet. That's just a theory. The chemical imbalance theory for why schizophrenics hear voices and they see entities has not been officially proven. There's been no test. They never explained what chemicals are imbalanced and by what ratio, so that is a theory. However, according to his experiences, he says that these entities are very real and that when he started to treat these entities as actual entities instead of random hallucinations, he actually started curing patients, and to this day, he's still helping patients all the time, completely getting rid of these voices without the use of drugs. So that interview was also very fascinating. I'll post the link below.
I was expecting him to be a wreck. And he sits down, and we did some small talk, and then I asked him, "Hey, do you remember the last time you were in my office? Do you remember that crackling? Did you hear that?" And he goes, "Yeah, I did, but I'm surprised you did." So I'm like, asked him, "What was that?" And he said, "That was them." And I said, "The voices?" And he said, "Yeah." And I said, "Well, what were they trying to do?" He said, "They were trying to scare you off."
If one person is having a hallucination and seeing entities, you can, I guess you can dismiss that. But when it's multiple people having the same exact hallucination, quote unquote, how can it possibly be random, right? If they're seeing the same type of entities, the shadow beings, or people who do psychedelics, they see the jesters and the clowns. How can it just be all random? How does the brain have the ability to just create the same type of hallucination? But maybe these entities that they're seeing are not hallucinations, they're very real. They just live in an invisible world that you and I can't see. Now, just like in the show Stranger Things, 11 unintentionally opened up a gateway to the upside down, letting some of these creatures out of there. There's also gateways, doorways to these worlds that you can unintentionally open up on accident, which you don't want to. And these gateways are hardcore drugs like meth, DMT, psychedelics, heroin, cocaine, weed, alcohol abuse. Trauma is also a big gateway. According to my interview with the psychotherapist, he says trauma is one of the first gateways, and then through this trauma, they get you to do hardcore drugs to open up the gateways even more, to allow more entities into your life. Alcohol abuse is also a big factor, and also messing with witchcraft like astrology, Ouija boards, tarot cards, magic, spells, black magic, white magic, just messing with witchcraft in general are all gateways. And just like 11 accidentally opened up a gateway, people who mess with this stuff who know nothing about it also unintentionally accidentally open up gateways to these spirits, to these entities, which when they have access to their lives through these gateways, they will torment you because they feed off negative emotional energy. They like trauma. And if they can make you feel more trauma, it opens up the gateways even more, because negative energy, fear, anxiety, stress, these are things they feed off of. And what was very interesting when I had my conversation with the psychotherapist, he stated that it's not just the schizophrenics or the people who do drugs that get attacked by these entities. It's people like you and I. And he explained that whenever you have an intrusive thought, such as a thought that tells you to do something very negative that you can't seem to control, it just seemingly comes out of nowhere. Like imagine you're driving a car and then some kind of voice or some thought in your head tells you to hurt that person, or to go hurt somebody, or to do something disgusting, or anything that you would never entertain. And when we get these intrusive thoughts, we always kind of like freak out for a second. We're like, why would I even entertain this? Why did this pop into my head? Well, maybe they're not your thoughts, because I believe not all thoughts are ours. And that's the thing about these entities. Sometimes they disguise themselves as your thoughts, and that's what intrusive thoughts are. And the way you can tell what an intrusive thought is number one, it's negative. It's always negative. And number two, it's hard to control. Intrusive thoughts are very hard to control because maybe they are not your thoughts to begin with. And how do these entities gain access to everyday people like you and I who don't mess with witchcraft and don't mess with hardcore drugs or abuse alcohol? Well, one of the gateways, like I said, is trauma. It can be anything from stress, anxiety, from fear, from depression. These are all also gateways. Because as humans, we're emotional creatures and we like to feed into fear and anxiety and stress. And that's how our world is literally built. That's how these entities operate in stealth, is they operate through these negative emotions. And just turn on the news and look at how much negative emotion is being bred into society. All the time there's something negative happening on the news. There's always negative music and negative movies. It's done to create and foster these negative emotions so that these entities can feed off and can torment you, making you feel more negative emotions so they can feed off you even more, like spiritual parasites. But yeah, Stranger Things is pretty accurate, right? The upside down is real. This is where these wicked entities reside in, and just like 11 opened up a gateway, you also can unintentionally open up gateways through abusing alcohol, through abusing drugs, through stress, anxiety, fear, trauma, and also through messing with witchcraft, like I've been saying. Like, now that I know all this stuff, whenever I see a person that's abusing alcohol, or I'm driving down somewhere, or I'm driving and I see a person, tweaking out on drugs on the street, instead of looking at them and saying, oh, that guy's a drunk, or that guy's a tweaker, I look at these people now and I'm like, wow, these guys are getting abused by spirits, by real entities. And it's a lot more sadder when you think of it like that. But anyway, thank you for watching, and we are done.